Happy T9! Today is an exciting day because we are finally at T9 and oh, my hat's falling off. So we are talking today about what to do when you hit T9, some of the ships, skills, and key decisions that you're going to need to make as you start progressing through into some of the late game meta that we're starting to see with Eve Echoes. So with that, let's undock and get started. All right, now as much as I love this thing, I think it's going to have to come off. Tech 9 comes with a lot of really fun things that we get to explore as part of the game. The elephant in the room, of course, being battleships. And not just the super expensive $15 to $17 billion battleships, billion-isk battleships, but we now have ones that you can actually get a hull for under $1 billion-isk. And that's a really big deal for a lot of people, myself included. And so what I want to talk about is really kind of three key areas. And the first is going to be, should you get a battleship? Should you respec into that battleship? And then if you get one, which one should you get? Or if you're not going to get one, what else are you going to be looking at as part of T9? So I know that this is going to be very battleship focused. I think that's natural, but I want to make sure that we're still covering some of the other things if you decide not to go down the battleship route. So like I said, the elephant in the room here is whether or not you should actually get a battleship. And I think the easiest answer to that is that if you are only playing one account, that means you don't have any alts, you probably should not get one. They're big, they're slow, they're expensive, both in terms of ISK and in terms of skill points, and they're going to limit you in what you can do other places. Now, if you do have alts, I think it's a much easier conversation. One of those I think should go into a battleship because they are fun and they're big, awesome ships. You can do a lot more with ratting, with PvP, things like that. But just be aware that you are going to be sinking most of your skill points at this time into those ships to really get the most out of them. Whereas with other ships, you are going to see a little bit more flexibility. If you're spec'd into, for example, frigates, cruisers, and battlecruisers like I am right now, you can be fairly versatile in a lot of situations. But if you're going to be dropping 20 million points into battleships, you're kind of stuck in battleships. The other thing that we need to address here is then, of course, should you respec? I think for the first time, T9 really gives us a good reason to actually bring out the Plex and start dropping skill points into new ships. Up until this point, every increase in ship, you can either keep most of the same skills or you're really kind of incrementally adding to the ones that you already have. For example, you can get battle cruisers and you can really get a lot of utility out of both medium and large weapon types. But if you go into battleships, there are no real medium weapon type bonuses. You could argue a little bit with the Dominics. You can still use like medium drones or small drones, and the bonuses that it gives are not specific to those size too large drones. But by and large, you're going to want to be using large weapons and large weapons only. So again, the question becomes, should you respec? I think that there is a very solid reason for this. I know that I am going to be respecing one of my characters so that they can be flying those battleships. And I'll probably talk about that in a later video because there's a lot more that's going on behind the scenes with that as well. But for you, again, I would probably only move one character into battleships. You are talking about a very sizable investment if you're going to be pulling skills out of some of these lower tier ships. If you're going to be doing it, I would plan to have at least 6 million skill points that you need to be able to sink into these ships between, again, cruising, engineering, weapon operation, weapon upgrade, and some of those other defensive skills and everything else that you need. Plan to have at least 6 million skill points that you can drop into those. The next question is going to be, what ship should I get? And obviously there's a lot of great battleships. I think that if you're going to be going into this with the mentality that you want it to be a jack of all trades, I personally think that the Tempest is the best all around at this point. If you're going small gang, I think that the Armageddon is the way to go. The bonuses that it gets to Newts and Nos are just fantastic. You can easily get a 45 kilometer range on your Newts. Again, it won't be as effective, but it's gonna still hit like it's gonna hit hard. If you're just gonna be using the battleship for ratting, I think the Dominix is going to be the way to go. Fleet PvP, again, I think the Tempest is a fantastic ship. The range and the bonuses that it gets to cannons give you the option to brawl or snipe. The Apocalypse, again, great for sniping. It's got some insane range. I think that some people in the Silent Alliance have been getting over 200 kilometers in range with those large lasers. So just to recap, best all around, I think the Tempest is going to give you the most flexibility, followed closely by the Dominix. That being said, Dominix I think is going to be PvP king. For small gang, the Armageddon is just outstanding. And then for big fleets, I think the Tempest or the Apocalypse are going to be your go-tos because of the range and the flexibility that they give you. Now, if you're not going to be going into a battleship, there are still some pretty fantastic ships that are out there. The frigates in T9 are a little underwhelming. The stealth bombers are just not that great at anything other than killing battleships with those large weapons. Granted, that could be a very good use case that you want to have, but I just personally don't really see myself using that except in, again, very specific cases. The destroyers, the tier 2 interdictors, they're an incremental upgrade, but I don't think that it's going to be worth the cost. I think a normal interdictor will do pretty much what you need it to for probably 1/10 of the cost. On the cruiser side of things, I'm personally really excited about the Arbiter Cov Ops 2. Between the drones and the tracking disruption, I think that's going to be a really strong ship and one that really gets a lot of use. There's currently a raging debate in our Discord about whether the Tornado 2 or the Oracle 2 is a better ship. I am going to be going with the Tornado 2 simply because I have skills in large cannons, and again, I'm going to be looking at the Tempest more than I am the Apocalypse or the Armageddon. So those will cross-pollinate a little bit there. If you're looking at battle cruisers, the other big thing here is the new logistics ships. The Logi pilots are very happy about the Hurricane Logistics. I personally think that the Hurricane Logistics is better than the Drake Logistics, just because I think that the range of the reps will be more useful than the range of the group reps. The increased reach of the Hurricane versus the large shield group reps or anything like that, you're already getting a 25 kilometer range, which is going to be bigger than pretty much any bubble that you should be in anyways. So I just don't think that you're really going to see as much use out of those. So that's it for this week, guys. If you are going to be hitting T9 in the next couple of months, I'm really curious to get your thoughts on kind of what your game plan is. There's a lot of really cool stuff. We get some really new shiny ships that I think are going to be a lot of fun to play around with. And so I'm really kind of curious just what everybody else is doing. Like I said, I think for me, the big ticket items are going to be the Arbiter 2 Covert Ops and a Dominix to start off with. I'm probably going to end up with a Tempest as well for more PvP focus. But like I said, really curious to hear what all you guys are doing as well. As always, thanks so much for joining me. If you would, do me a favor, reach down, hit that like button, helps other people find the channel, and hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Putting out weekly content and hopefully entertaining and giving you guys a little bit of information to make your journey as a pilot a little bit easier. So, thanks so much, have a great week, and fly safe.